It's not going to be a cutting board. Barbecue platter. Here's the thing though. When you're gearing up to make one, well, you might as well make a bunch. Ash, white oak, walnut, padauk, teak, I don't know, padauk, white oak, walnut, ash, cherry, maple, got more maple over there. That's a pretty nice assortment. I wish I had some yellow heart. I really like yellow heart. The neat thing about yellow heart, yellow heart doesn't change colors. It's yellow when you put it in, it's always going to be yellow. You know, padauk goes darker brown, walnut will go lighter, cherry goes darker, yellow heart stays. Ash and teak. And that should give me something, maybe 13.5, 14 inches. But, well, this is 20 inches. I'm not planning to have it that long. I was thinking more like 18. That should be a good barbecue platter. But yeah, all these little strips makes it a little bit extra work trying to get that sorted out. Normally when you're doing a glue up, you're so worried about everything lining up. Well, here, this is going to get run through the planer afterwards, and the wood is all over the place, so I'm concerned with getting a good glue joint. Less concerned with it staying aligned, because it is thicker than it needs to be. So this is the second one. You know, when I make cutting boards, and this is not a cutting board, when I make cutting boards, I never make one. Because, well, I don't know if there's a because, but I always end up digging through the scrap pile and finding all the strips that I've been hanging on to, and I make 2 or 3 or sometimes even more. And this is pretty much the same thing because it's the same basic method. Okay. Okay, now this is number 3. It's like that old chip commercial, but you can't just have one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And that's put a nice dent in my scrap pile because my name's not Matt Cremona. Wow. Basement shop and I got the sun in my face. Kind of weird. So the planer can handle up to 13 inches wide. So you get 3 guesses as to how wide I'm going to make these platters, not cutting boards. The most challenging part of this build, I think, is getting these juice grooves in the top of the cutting board, because how do you cut them when you're going around a curved piece? I'm pretty sure that shot has made a lot of you cringe at the thought of using a handheld router to do the juice grooves in this barbecue tray. There are probably many ways that you can do it. I've done it before where I had to cook up a whole wooden pattern, and the problem there I find is that the pattern has to exactly fit the size of your board. You know, if you have one a little bit bigger, a bit smaller, you got to change the pattern. A CNC would be great. I don't think my CNC could really handle it because you'd need a nice big bit. And so yeah, I just practiced on a piece of scrap. I'm holding my hand steady, I'm moving slow, and I'm taking a chance. As a woodworker, I figure, you know, I've got 3 of these. If I mess up one, I still end up with 2, and maybe I just end up with one that's a lot thinner then, because then I have to plane it down, or I just make another one. But this is the method that I chose, and I'm about halfway now. We'll see at the end if everything turns out okay. And that's number 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So just for a close-up, this is just a palm router. This one has a Bosch one. And I've got the fence. Let's get that focusing. I have the fence on. Here's I don't know what you call it. Do you call that a spoon bit? A little round nose thing. And I got the fence on there. And that is how I did this freehand. I did one pass, and then I lowered the bit just a bit, did another pass. The straightaways are fairly clean. There's a little bit of burn marks here and there. The corners especially, because you really slow down going on the corner. And have a little bit of cork, a little bit of dowel would do. Wrap that in some 80 grit, and that will do a lot of this. However, that's for the impatient side of things. I have my my Dremel clone, which need a careful touch to it because you can wreck it quickly, but it makes short works of the burns. So this is my own barbecue tray, which I've used for a number of years, and that was sort of my pattern for making this next set. And one thing that I did was I made the juice grooves a little bigger and deeper to hold more of the meat juices. And another little experiment that I'm going to try, is I'm going to take a file here and I'm going to file just sort of a spout in the corner, because one thing that I've noticed is sometimes you want to drain off some of the juice and there's nothing to guide it. Now I don't want to make a slot all the way to the edge, because this is supposed to hold the juice as well when you put your meat on the platter beside you. But just sort of, I think I'll just put a little point there so that there's an easy way to get started when you drain it off. It's a bit of an experiment. It's a little thing, but hopefully it is helpful. I use a beeswax salad bowl finish for my cutting boards, and these are not cutting boards, but they are close enough barbecue trays. It's just a mixture of beeswax and boiled linseed oil. I get it at Lee Valley. You just wipe it in and buff it on and watch the wood come alive. One of the easiest finishes there are, because you just wipe it on. You don't really worry that much about being dusty or fumes. I mean, sure, you'll wipe the dust off, but you don't worry about the dust getting into the finish. That's what I mean. This is my own cutting board 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not even sure. This was on there at the beginning. Of course, it's a completely different set of wood, but I've never done anything since. Just wash it and set it to dry in the dish rack and put it away until the next barbecue. Though I don't know, I might end up keeping one of these because these look nice. Look at that. Let this dry a bit, soak in a bit, and come in and buff them some more. They are beautiful, aren't they? Turned out great, didn't they? You know, I only needed one for a present, but it's just like with cutting boards. You might as well make 2 or 3 because it's just as much work. So as always, I'd like to thank you for stopping by and spending some time in my shop. I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable, and we will see you next time. One of these days I'll get one of those one of those sanders like some of those guys have. But until then, everything goes through the joiner. The joiner. Boy, let's just throw this away. Start that footage over again. Planer.